right. Thank you, Barbara. Good morning, everybody. I have a vague recollection of being here before. The lights are so bright in here, I can hardly see you from the back, but I know that you're there. You know, it's interesting, Joyce, if you get fingerprinted, remember in the 60s it was a felony to have marijuana. But it's not anymore, so you can get that expunged. Just saying, not that I have any knowledge of that. So, Global Truth, good morning.
Good morning.
You know, everyone on the live stream today, and the people who are new here this morning, because I'm substituting for James, please do come back and hear him next week. He's an amazing, amazing speaker. And one of the reasons I'm here today is I get to do payback. Because November, I was supposed to be the guest speaker at the CSL Inglewood Harvest Festival. And I woke up that morning with a terrible, terrible stomach flu. And I actually called James to get the phone number for Dr. Elizabeth Marshall. And when I told him I was supposed to be the guest speaker and I was not feeling good, he said, "I'll go for you." Now, he had to drive all the way to Inglewood on a Friday night. So I think I owe him a little bit more than driving 3 miles down the road. So anyway, James, I owe you, James. So when Dr. James asked me yesterday, very late in the day, by the way, James, asked me to come and show up this morning, I asked him what the theme was, and he said possibilities. And he writes, as an afterthought, how ironic. And it is, yes, it is a little bit ironic, you know, because Ernest Holmes, oh wait, I guess I have to use this. There you go. Ernest Holmes said that it is, a possibility is, and it isn't at some level. And Ernest Holmes tells us over and over and over again that we live in this unlimited universe and that possibility is forever at the forefront of everything that we do and everything we say and everything that we are. Charles Fillmore said, "It is the law of spirit that we must be that which we would draw to us. If we would draw to us love, we must be love. Be loving and kind. If we would have peace and harmony in our environment, we must establish it within ourselves." Now, Charles Fillmore was one of the founders, along with Myrtle Fillmore, of the Unity movement. Love, peace, and harmony in our environment are the keys to a life of possibility. That's just very basic science of mind. Knowing, as I said, that we live in an abundant and prosperous universe, how could it be anything else? How could it be anything else? There is the season for peace and nonviolence, as we're in right now, and yet the people of our country and other countries in the world, my son travels all over the world now, so I have this on good authority, that we're experiencing a crisis of confidence. And it shows up for most people, and certainly for me as well, as a crisis of faith. And it's the natural segue. And if we're not prayed up, that what happens is we fall into the trap of doom and gloom sometimes. For every person who has come to me in the last little while for counseling or coaching, I'd say in the last 2 years, nothing intended by that, but the last 2 years, I'm so grateful for every one of those people who showed up in my life. Each one of those people was my coach. And I suspect that anyone else who comes to me tomorrow or the next day or 2 weeks from now, they're also going to be my coach. Why? Because they've entrusted me with their vulnerability. And for every secret they share and for every word of solace that I offer, it's because I need to hear what I'm saying. Have you ever noticed that when you're trying to talk somebody down off the ledge, you're the one who really needs to hear what you're saying? Yes, yes. So is there a possibility that the clergy, even the most spiritually evolved in our clergy system, are having a crisis of faith as well? And I think that's true. I belong to the Conejo Valley Interfaith Council, and a lot of our conversations lately seem to revolve around how can we be better for our congregations? But I think the real question is, how can we be better for ourselves? As some of you know, my home was badly damaged in the Hill Fire in Newbury Park. While 3 of them in my complex burned down, mine was just damaged and everything has been repaired and everything is back to rights. But I had unresolved issues from the shooting in Pittsburgh at the temple, and then the borderline shooting. And I felt like it sort of caved in on me or descended upon me in like this giant wave. I didn't realize it at the time. I only realized it in retrospect. And I think that's true for a lot of people who grieve the loss of a loved one. They don't notice that they're in the fog until after the fog is over with, right? And yet, I still managed to maintain my equilibrium through the restoration and the renovation. I still counseled those who came to me for counseling, some who'd lost everything. I paid my bills, I slept, I ate, I visited with friends. I picked up my granddaughter at school on time, and I kept to my spiritual discipline. And I think that's the key. And yet, through all of that, the skies of my mind were cloudy. There was something that was out of balance. Some of you may have experienced a similar thing. And even though, as Fillmore says, I worked to maintain peace within myself, the skies of my mind were still cloudy. I'm not going to lie. Did I have a reason to complain? Yes, I had a flood in my house in mid-September and a fire in mid-November, and I was cautiously awaiting the locusts. But we don't have locusts in California, I'm told. So that may not be a very metaphysical approach, but it helps when you have humor. So what did I learn? Well, we will never manifest our dreams by complaining about our current reality. That's what I learned. There is absolutely no possibility in complaining. That's the theme, possibilities. Except maybe to alienate people in our circle of influence who are sick and tired of hearing those complaints. Maybe you have relatives like that. There's probably nobody in here who does that. But what we have to do is love our way through our adversities and then come out on the other side better for having experienced those challenges. That's how this philosophy works. It's not that we don't have problems. You know, years ago I used to think that when I got spiritual that all those problems would go away. That's a lie, I told myself, because that's what I wanted. I still have problems today, but those problems affect me less. The lows get higher, of shorter duration and less frequency. And that's how this science of mind works. So what I want to talk about this morning is the acronym for LOVE. Learn, own, verify, and express. This is the ultimate acronym. Martin Luther King said, hatred paralyzes life. Love releases it. Hatred confuses life. Love harmonizes it. Hatred darkens life. Love illuminates it. So the first acronym is LEARN. And so for everybody here, we all know this, that until we learn to do better, we won't do better. It's just as simple as that. So I suggest when I when I think about this, that we find people in our circle of influence who have done better and follow them around. Follow them around. The Science of Mind and the Unity Movement were created for us to learn to live life from a more empowered perspective. And really, that's what it is. Centers for Spiritual Living has as its underlying thought process teaching people how to live spiritually centered lives. That's what we do. That's what you do here. When I first came to New Thought, I was miserable and sad. Hard to believe, because I have such an amazing life today. And I felt as though life were a bit of a burden to bear. You know, I was walking around with a heavy heart most of the time. I'm not gonna lie, when I found out that I was cause to my own effect, I was angry. I mean, I was really angry. And I know that people who take first year class, they get a little ticked off when they find that out. How could that be true? My mother was unskilled. My boss was a jerk. And don't get me started on my sister. You know, wait a minute. All of those people, and I am cause to my own effect. One of my teachers asked me how I thought I'd participated in these relationships since I was the common denominator. Then I was really ticked off. You know, I despised that teacher for a whole week. Dennis Merritt Jones, if you're watching. The thing about that was, you know, when we're confronted with the truth, sometimes it doesn't sit well with us for a little bit. We have to let it gel. I always say that the science of mind isn't a microwave philosophy, it's a crock-pot philosophy. You know, it has to simmer for a while. So I realized that what he had done for me was to bring me to an awareness of my own victim consciousness. That was the beginning of the most amazing journey for me. And a shift took place that week. And while I'd love to say that I changed in an instant, occasionally I still revert to form. I do. And I feel a little victimized. But feeling victimized has a beginning and an end. Being a victim is a lifelong experience. And I gave that up. How many years ago? 40 years ago when I first started in this teaching. So the next letter is O, and that's own. And as I begin to own my participation in all these relationships and life in general, my experience of these people changed accordingly. You know, they didn't do anything different. How I saw them changed. And I saw that maybe I might have been participating in my mother's unskilled parenting. I was a difficult child. My boss was, and so I found another job. I mean, it's easy to do. You know, I had to lovingly own those dark places in myself and be willing to release them. And yet, there are some of us who have a very, very determined victim attitude. We may know people like that. They say the same things over and over again. They complain about the same things over and over again. You know, you don't know what I've gone through. You have no idea how much I suffer. You didn't have it as bad as I did growing up. You know, complaining is comparative. It's always comparative. It's one-upmanship with somebody else. And maybe we have to employ the Terry Cole Whitaker method of counseling. She'll just say, stop that. You know, stop that. It's as simple as that. And I get to do that to myself occasionally. If I continue being the victim, I'm really powerless. I'm just powerless. When I finally see my part in the equation, I'm powerful beyond measure, because that's where change comes in. and the possibilities are endless. Joseph Campbell said, "We must let go of the life we planned so as to accept the one that is waiting for us." So we all have a life waiting for us. It could be something brand new. It could be something old that we've thought about for years and years, but we've been afraid to implement. I let go of my misery, and possibilities showed up too numerous to mention. I mean, it's a whole other talk about what happened as a result of that. It's an experiment, I say. Try it for just 1 week and see how you feel. And then come back and talk to James and tell him how. We were both raised Catholic, so we have a simpatico nature along those lines. So the V stands for verify. Howard Thurman said, "Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive." Yeah. Howard Washington Thurman was a political activist in the 60s who marched right alongside with Martin Luther King. And he played a leading role in the local social justice movements and organizations of the 20th century. And in fact, I had the privilege in the 60s, San Francisco, marching down Montgomery Street with Angela Davis and Martin Luther King Jr. and Howard Thurman. I was way back at the end of the line. I had my business suit on and my fro, and I just thought this was it. We were going to change the world. And we did think we were going to change the world. And unfortunately, when Charlottesville happened, I went into a tailspin that lasted 4 days. I thought, wait, we did been there, done that. We did this already. What the heck? So that's a whole other talk too. I digress. You know, another word for verify is authenticate or validate. And it's where we authenticate or validate whatever is going on in our lives. God so loved itself that it needed form to express. And we are the authentic expression of God. We contain all the qualities of God. Sometimes those qualities are hard to find in certain people. Have you ever noticed that? And I often find myself saying when I'm confronted with somebody who's just a conundrum to me, a total conundrum, I say, "Okay, God, I know you're in there somewhere. I just can't see you right now." So that's when we know we've kind of arrived, when we don't say those kinds of things out loud, you know? So E stands for express. Martin Luther King said, "Nonviolence means not only avoiding physical violence, but also internal violence of the spirit. You not only refuse to shoot a person, but you refuse to hate that person." You know, you really can't have one without the other. So how do I express myself in my world? Am I perceived as angry? Do I speak out when someone denigrates another person in my presence? Am I honest, and do I operate from a place of integrity? Who do I associate with on a daily basis? Somebody once said that we are known by the company we keep. You know, and it's sort of guilt by association a lot of times, isn't it? It's not that we're not entitled to have differences of opinion, but the idea of differences is to say our piece and be willing to look at it differently. That's really what effective communication is all about. When we do this, the possibilities are unlimited. You know, somebody might have a point of view that I never thought of before. And I have this, a couple of times in the last couple of months, I've had these aha moments from people that that I thought to myself, why would they say something like that to me? Well, they said it to me because I needed to hear it. So many of my friends and relatives are on the edge of change right now. So many people making big changes. You know, new jobs, no jobs. New relationships, no relationship. Newfound money, not yet found money. I mean, we're on the edge of some big shift right now. And I can feel it so clearly. Harold Blaze, who's a wonderful artist from the Pacific Northwest, said years ago in a Christmas card I got from him, how do I conduct my life so that my efforts end up on the credit column of the planet's ledgers? So when we're moving toward change of some kind, that's really what self-evaluation is all about. How do I conduct my life so that my efforts end up on the credit column of the planet's ledgers? You know, whenever I disagree with somebody, I don't outright want to tell them they're wrong. I ask this question: could you entertain the possibility of looking at this differently? Isn't that so much nicer than saying, well, that's stupid, you're wrong, you know? Right? Could you entertain the possibility of looking at this differently? Sometimes it's yes, and sometimes it's no. But then I say, would you be willing to entertain the possibility of looking at it differently? And that's when the tears usually start to flow. It's because of a long-held belief in unworthiness. And when the tears start coming, there's an energetic shift. There's something released. The blocks to moving forward, or the block to moving forward in life, shows up when we believe there are no possibilities. We're stuck. We feel stuck. We aren't stuck, but we feel stuck. And this is where we gather around us all the people who love us. That's why you come here on Sunday mornings. These are your peeps. This is your tribe. These are people who are going to love you even if you are stupid. Sometimes. And aren't we grateful? Aren't we grateful? You know, some of them are family members, children who were raised in this teaching. Oh my God. It comes back to haunt me sometimes. The kindest words I think I've ever heard from a friend who loved me enough to tell me, I love you, Maureen, but I'm sick and tired of hearing your story. And you know what my response was? I know. I'm sick and tired of it too. And that's when change began to take place. Sometimes, for us to understand L period, O period, V period, E period, a dramatic change has to take place. A flood, a fire, a shooting, or the death of a loved one. It's called transmutation. And Lala Delia said transmutation is this: grapes must be crushed to make wine. Diamonds form under pressure. Olives are pressed to release the oil. Seeds grow in darkness. Whenever we feel crushed, under pressure, pressed, or in darkness, we're in a powerful place of transformation or transmutation. And this is where miracles take place. St. Augustine said that miracles are not contrary to nature, but only contrary to what we know about nature. So there you have it. Possibility opens the mind to a new idea of what we know inherently, because miracles don't happen out there. They happen in the heart and soul of who we are. Ernest Holmes calls it a shift in consciousness. Out there, the five senses get us distracted a bit. But in the heart and soul of who we are, there are no barriers or no distractions. Indulge me for a second today. I know that this is a little longer than you're used to on a Sunday morning, but I want to end this talk with a little process that I have done as long as I've been in ministry, and that's a renewal of vows. Valentine's Day is coming up, and Everyone here today is currently in the most possibility defining relationship with someone who will never leave or abandon you. And that's yourself. That's the relationship that you're in today. So today, we're going to renew our vows to ourselves, because this is the only never-ending relationship we will ever have. So if you'll indulge me for a minute and close your eyes, put your hand on your heart, and repeat after me. I promise to love me and cherish me.
I promise to love me and cherish me.
Always.
Always.
To recognize my divinity.
To recognize my divinity.
To be supportive and understanding.
To be supportive and understanding.
To be honest and truthful about my feelings.
To be honest and truthful about my feelings.
To treat me with honor and respect.
To treat me with honor and respect.
To give me the highest and best of myself at all times.
To give me the highest and best of myself at all times.
I promise to thank God every day.
I promise to thank God every day.
For the gift of my love to myself.
For the gift of my love to myself.
Now, the possibilities in this declaration are unlimited. Knowing with God, knowing with God, all things are possible, and so it is.